A tightly wound spring holds its shape perfectly. It looks strong. It looks ready. But touch it, and you feel the tension humming through the coil, every loop pressed against the next, waiting for release. The body can be like this, holding itself upright, holding itself together, holding on to a shape that feels necessary, even when no one asked for it. You might notice this now. The shoulders drawn slightly forward, the jaw carrying a weight it doesn't need to carry, the belly pulled in just a little, as if relaxing it would mean something has gone wrong. These are not decisions you made this morning. They are patterns the body has learned, ways of being it returns to without asking. And here is what the body knows that the mind often forgets: tension costs energy. Even when you are sitting still, even when you are lying down, the spring wound tight is spending itself just to maintain its shape. The body holding itself is doing the same. It is working quietly in the background, and that work accumulates. The breath knows this. If you bring attention to the breathing now, not changing it, just noticing, you might sense how much space it actually has, or how little. Whether the inhale reaches all the way down into the belly or stops somewhere higher in the chest, as if there were a boundary it has learned not to cross. The breath is honest. It shows you where the holding is. This is not about fixing anything. It is about seeing. When you see the tension, you are already in a different relationship with it. You are no longer inside it, identified with it, assuming it is simply how things are. You are noticing it, and in that noticing, something shifts. Not always dramatically, but it shifts. The body settles when it feels seen, not judged, not corrected. Seen, the way a child who has been holding their breath finally exhales when someone sits down beside them and simply waits. The presence itself is the permission. So you might bring that quality of presence now to your own body, starting with the places that are easy to feel. The hands, perhaps, resting wherever they are resting. You do not need to move them. Just notice the temperature there, the weight, the small points of contact against fabric, against skin, against air. The hands do not need to do anything. They are allowed to simply be hands, and the feet, if you can feel them, whether they are touching the ground or lifted, covered or bare. The feet spend so much of the day carrying you, and they do it without complaint. Here now, they can rest, even if you are standing, even if you are walking. There is a way of meeting the feet with awareness that lets them soften, just slightly, into whatever they are touching. The spring begins to unwind not by force but by release, by recognizing that the coiling was optional. The body begins to settle not because you have commanded it to relax, but because you have stopped insisting it stay tense. This is subtle. It happens in the spaces between breaths, in the moment when you notice the shoulders and do not immediately try to fix them, but simply let them be seen. The mind watches this. At first, it might not trust it. The mind is used to effort. It is used to making things happen. Relaxation through awareness sounds too simple, too passive. Shouldn't you be doing something? Shouldn't there be a technique, a method, a series of steps? But the body does not relax through effort. It relaxes through safety, through the sense that it is allowed to let go. And awareness provides that safety. When you are aware of tension, you are not lost in it. When you are aware of the breath, you are not controlling it. You are simply there, present, noticing what is already happening. This is the ground of the practice. Not achieving relaxation, not performing calmness, but meeting the body exactly as it is, with the same patient attention you might bring to a friend who is carrying something heavy. You do not grab the weight from them. You walk beside them. You acknowledge the load. And sometimes, in that acknowledgement, they find they can set it down. The body knows how to settle. It has done this before. Every night, when sleep finally comes, every moment when danger passes and the system realizes it can stop bracing. What it needs is not instruction but invitation. A reminder that this moment right now is not an emergency, that the breath can deepen, that the muscles can soften, that the spring can begin slowly to unwind. There is a knot in wood that only shows itself when you run your hand across the grain. Your fingers catch on something. The surface that looked smooth from a distance reveals its truth only through touch, only through the slow attention of your hand moving across it. Most of the time we live at a distance from ourselves. We move through the day without knowing what our body is actually doing, where it is holding, what it is protecting. The tightness lives in us like that hidden knot. It does not announce itself. It waits for attention. The Buddha taught that the body is not separate from the mind. It is not a vehicle that carries the mind around like a passenger. The body is the ground where all experience arises. Every thought, every emotion, every moment of awareness touches down in flesh and breath and sensation. When we ignore the body, we are ignoring the place where life is actually happening. We are living in a story about ourselves instead of in ourselves. And yet tightness accumulates without our knowing. A worry tenses the shoulders. A small shame pulls at the chest. An old fear grips the jaw. These things happen quietly, beneath the level of words. We do not decide to hold them. We simply find ourselves holding them, the way a hand closes around something precious without thinking. After a while, the holding becomes so familiar that we forget we are doing it. The tightness becomes invisible because it has always been there. This is why awareness matters more than force. If you try to relax by willpower, by pushing the tension away, you are still in a kind of war with your own body. You are trying to make it different. But the body does not respond to commands the way we wish it would. It responds to attention. It responds to being known. When you begin to notice where you are actually tight, something shifts. Not because you have fixed anything, but because you have stopped pretending. You have stopped living in the story and started living in the sensation. And the body, when it is truly seen, when it is met with a kind of gentle curiosity instead of judgment or demand, begins to settle on its own. This is not magic. It is simply what happens when we stop fighting ourselves. The knot in the wood does not disappear because you deny it. It does not loosen because you tell yourself you should be more relaxed. It reveals itself to the hand that moves slowly across it. And once it is known, once you have felt its shape and its texture, you can work with it differently. You can sand it. You can let it be. You can understand what it is. But first, you must find it. This is the practice. It is simple, but it requires a kind of patience that we are not always taught to have. You begin at the crown of your head, not thinking about your head, actually feeling it. What is the sensation there? Is there tightness around the eyes, around the temples? You are not trying to change anything. You are not trying to achieve relaxation. You are simply noticing what is already present. Then you move slowly downward, to the forehead, to the space between the eyebrows, to the bridge of the nose. You let your attention rest in each place for a moment. You name what you find without judgment. Tightness, ease, numbness, warmth, coolness. Whatever is there is fine. There is no right answer. There is only what is actually happening in this moment. You continue down to the jaw. Many of us carry a tremendous amount of holding in the jaw. The teeth are clenched. The muscles are tight. We do not even realize we are doing it. But when you bring your attention there, when you feel into that area with genuine curiosity, something becomes possible. You see the knot. You feel its shape. The neck and shoulders come next. This is a place where tension loves to gather. Worry lives here. Responsibility. The weight of things we carry. As you move your attention across the shoulders, you may notice that one side is tighter than the other. You may feel a kind of stiffness that you have been walking around with for months or years. You notice it. That is all. You do not need to fix it yet. Down the spine, across the chest, into the belly. Each area has its own story. The chest may be tight with grief or fear. The belly may be held with anxiety. The lower back may be braced against something. As you move slowly through each region, you are building a map. You are learning where you live. You are discovering the places where you have been clenching without knowing it. By the time you reach the legs and feet, you have already found at least one place of clear holding, perhaps two. You know now what tightness feels like in your own body. You have felt it directly, not as an idea but as a sensation. And in that knowing, something begins to release, not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped pretending it was not there. The body settles when the mind stops fighting it, and the mind stops fighting when it finally turns toward what is real. When the mind wanders, it is not wandering because it is restless by nature. It is wandering because it has no place to land. Think of how a boat drifts in moving water. The current pushes it this way and that, and the boat has no choice but to follow. But if that boat is tied to a post, even a post in the middle of flowing water, something shifts. The boat may still move, the water still moves, but the boat is no longer lost. It returns again and again to the same place. This is what happens when you give the mind a post to return to, not a post that stops the water, not a post that forces stillness, but a post that is always there, always available, always the same. The breath is such a post. Most of us have never noticed this about our own breathing. We breathe all day, all night, and the breath moves through us like water moves through water. It is so constant that we forget it is there at all. The mind wanders because it has learned to wander. It has learned to chase thoughts, to follow sensations, to reach toward what feels good and pull away from what feels difficult. And there is nothing wrong with this. This is how the mind has always worked. But when you are tired, when you want rest, when you want to stop the endless reaching and pulling, the breath becomes something different. It becomes an anchor. Not an anchor that holds you down. An anchor that holds you still while everything else moves. When you breathe in, the breath comes in. When you breathe out, the breath goes out. This is so simple that it sounds like nothing. But notice what happens when you actually feel this. When you breathe in, and you know that you are breathing in. Not thinking about breathing in, not planning what comes next, but knowing in that moment that the breath is coming in. The air is moving. The body is receiving. This knowing is different from thinking. It is closer. It is more real. And then the breath goes out. You know it is going out. The air leaves. The body releases. And for just a moment, there is a small pause. A space between the out breath and the in breath. In that space, the mind is not pulling toward the future. It is not reaching for the next thought. It is simply here. Simply knowing what is happening. The body already knows how to do this. The body has been breathing since before you were born. It does not need instructions. It does not need to be perfect. It just breathes. But the mind, The mind is used to being somewhere else. It is used to narrating, planning, worrying, remembering. It is used to anything but this. So when you bring your attention to the breath, you are not trying to change the breath. You are not trying to make it slower or deeper or more special. You are simply noticing what is already happening. And as you do this, something begins to settle. Not because you have forced it, but because the mind has finally found a place to rest. Think again of the boat in the water. At first, when the boat is tied to the post, it still moves. The current is strong. The boat drifts and pulls against the rope, but the rope keeps it returning. Again and again, the boat comes back to the post. And slowly, without anyone pushing, the boat settles. Not because the water has stopped moving, but because the boat has stopped fighting. It has stopped trying to go somewhere else. It has accepted that it is tied here, and in that acceptance, there is a kind of peace. This is what happens with the breath. At first, your attention will wander many times. You will start counting a breath and suddenly realize you have been thinking about something completely different. This is not failure. This is simply what happens when the mind is learning to rest. The wandering is like the boat drifting, but each time you notice the wandering, you are like the rope. You are bringing the attention back. You are returning to the post, and the post is always here. The breath does not go away. It is always available. Even when your mind wanders 100 times, the breath is still breathing. You can return to it 100 times, and it will still be there. So here is what you might do. Find a place where you can sit or lie down without too much disturbance. Let your body settle into whatever position feels natural. There is no need to sit in any special way. The body knows how to be comfortable, and then simply begin to notice your breathing. Do not change it. Do not make it deeper or slower. Just let it be as it is and notice it. As you breathe in, know that you are breathing in. As you breathe out, know that you are breathing out. You might count each breath if that helps. 1 breath in, 1 breath out. That is 1, then 2, then 3. Continue until you reach 10 breaths. 10 full breaths, where you feel each one completely before moving to the next. When you reach 10, you might begin again at 1, or you might simply rest here, continuing to feel the breath without counting. There is no goal. There is nowhere to get to. You are simply here, knowing what is here. And as you do this, the body settles. Not because you have forced it, but because the mind has finally found a place to rest. There is a place in your body right now where you are holding on. You may not have noticed it yet, but it is there. Perhaps it lives in your shoulders or along the back of your neck. Perhaps it is in your jaw or deep in your belly. This holding is not a mistake. It is not something you did wrong. It arrived quietly over time as a kind of protection. Your body learned that if it stayed tight, if it held itself together, it could manage what felt unmanageable. Tightness became a form of control. And here is what makes this so human. We believe that if we release this tension, we will fall apart. We believe that tightness is what is holding us together. We grip because we think the grip is what keeps us safe. The fist stays closed because opening it feels like losing everything. But what if the opposite were true? What if the very thing we think is holding us together is actually what is preventing us from being held at all? There is an old teaching from Zen that says the fist that opens becomes a hand that receives. This is not poetry alone. It is an observation about how your body actually works. A closed fist cannot receive anything. It cannot hold water, cannot feel warmth, cannot touch another hand. It can only clench. But the moment your hand opens, something changes. The same hand that was rigid becomes capable of receiving. It does not become weaker. It becomes available. Your body knows this. Watch ice as it melts. It does not disappear. It does not become less than it was. It simply changes form. The ice that was hard and fixed becomes water that is fluid and responsive. The substance is still there. The essence has not vanished. Only the form has shifted. And in that shift, something that was locked becomes something that can flow. This is not loss. This is transformation. The tension you carry in your body is like that ice. It is solid. It feels real and permanent. You have held it for so long that you may have forgotten what it felt like before it froze. But the moment you begin to soften it, you will discover something. The substance of you does not disappear. You do not become less. You simply become more fluid, more responsive, more capable of meeting what arises. The problem is that relaxation has been sold to you as something you must achieve. Relax, you are told. Let go. Release. These words come with an edge of demand. They carry the same urgency as everything else in your life. And so you try to relax, which is just another form of gripping. You try to let go, which is another kind of holding on. The very effort to release becomes another layer of tension. What if instead you simply noticed what was already there? Not to fix it, not to make it better, just to be aware of it. When you bring attention to a place of tightness without judgment, something shifts. The tightness does not necessarily vanish immediately, but it stops being invisible. It stops being just the way things are. It becomes something you are aware of, something you are in relationship with, rather than something you are identified with. And in that small shift of awareness, the body begins to soften on its own. This is not magic. It is simply how your nervous system works. Tension thrives in darkness, in the places you do not look. The moment you shine the light of awareness on it, the grip begins to ease. Not because you forced it to ease, but because awareness itself is a kind of permission. Permission to be as you are. Permission to soften. You might feel this most clearly in your breath. The breath moves most freely through a body that is not defended. When you are gripping, your breath becomes shallow. It stays high in your chest, quick and uncertain. But when you soften, the breath deepens. It finds its way down into your belly. It moves more slowly, more fully. The breath and the body are not separate. They are part of the same conversation. This is where the practice becomes simple. You do not need to relax your entire body. You do not need to fix everything at once. Instead, you choose one small place, just one area where you notice you are holding. It might be your shoulders. It might be your hands. It might be somewhere deeper that you can only sense as a kind of tightness or heaviness. And then you do something very gentle. You breathe toward that place, not to force it open, not to make anything happen, simply to direct your attention there and to breathe. 5 breaths, that is all. As you breathe in, you are aware of that place. As you breathe out, you allow whatever softening wants to happen. You are not pushing. You are not trying. You are simply present with the breath and the sensation. What you may notice is that even in 5 breaths, something shifts. The grip loosens just slightly. The ice begins to melt just a little. The substance of you is still there, still whole, still intact, but it has changed form. It has become a little more fluid, a little more capable of receiving what comes next. This is how the body settles, not through force, through awareness and presence. And as the body settles, something else settles too. The mind, which was holding its own tension, begins to ease. They are not separate. The body and mind are one continuous thing, and when one softens, the other cannot help but follow. There is something we do almost without noticing. The moment we turn our attention inward, toward the body or the breath or any sensation at all, we begin to shape what we find. We notice tightness in the shoulders and immediately want to soften it. We feel restlessness and reach for calm. We observe a thought and try to think it away. Awareness becomes a tool for improvement, and the body becomes a project. This happens so naturally that it feels like the right thing to do. We have been taught that awareness is useful precisely because it helps us change what needs changing. And there is truth in that. But something gets lost when we approach our own experience as a problem to be solved. The teaching speaks of a mirror. A mirror reflects what stands before it without preference, without judgment, without the impulse to polish what it sees. The mirror does not reach out to smooth a wrinkle or brighten a shadow. It simply receives and returns. This is not passivity or indifference. It is a kind of clarity that comes only when we stop trying to improve the reflection. When you watch clouds pass across the sky, you do not reach up to shape them into something more beautiful. You do not feel frustrated that they drift away. You do not try to make them stay or move faster. You watch. The clouds move according to their own nature, and something in you settles simply by observing them. There is no effort in this watching. There is no project. There is only the seeing itself. But the body is not the sky. The body is you, or feels that way. And so when we turn awareness toward sensation, toward tightness, or trembling, or heaviness, we carry with us the assumption that we should do something about it. We should fix it. We should make it better. This assumption is so quiet, so familiar, that we rarely notice it is there. What happens if we do not? What happens if awareness simply meets what is present without the intention to change it? There is a settling that occurs, not because we have relaxed the muscles or calmed the mind through effort, but because the body itself responds to being truly received. When you stop treating a sensation as a problem, it changes. Not because you changed it, because you stopped fighting it. The fight itself was the tension. The resistance itself was the tightness. This is not the same as resignation or giving up. It is the opposite. It is a kind of full attention that includes everything without grasping at anything. The mirror does not give up on what it reflects. It simply does not try to improve it. And in that non-effort, in that acceptance of what is actually here, something releases. A person lies in bed at night with a racing mind. They notice the anxiety in the chest and immediately try to breathe it away. They try to think calm thoughts. They try to relax, and with each attempt, the anxiety tightens further, because now there is not only the original sensation, but also the strain of trying to escape it. There is the sensation and the judgment that it should not be there. There is the experience and the resistance to the experience. The body is held by two forces pulling in opposite directions. But if that same person simply notices the sensation without the intention to change it, something shifts. The chest is tight. Yes. The mind is moving fast. Yes. And there is no war with these facts. There is no project. There is only the seeing of what is. And in that seeing, without the added layer of resistance, the body often begins to settle on its own. Not because the person made it settle, but because the person stopped making it worse. This is equanimity. Not as a distant ideal or a state to achieve, but as the natural result of meeting experience without preference. Equanimity is what happens when you stop trying to push away what is difficult and pull toward what is pleasant. It is the stability that comes from seeing clearly without the constant motion of wanting things to be different. The practice is simple, though not always easy. Find one sensation in your body. It might be the weight of your head on the pillow, or the touch of the blanket on your skin, or the gentle rise and fall of your breath. It does not matter which sensation. What matters is that you choose one and stay with it. Now stay with it for 3 breaths, just 3. And as you stay, notice the impulse to adjust it, to improve it, to make it more pleasant or less uncomfortable. You may feel that impulse strongly or barely at all. Either way, notice it, and then do not follow it. Let the sensation be exactly as it is. Let your awareness rest on it, like a mirror resting on what stands before it. You are not trying to relax. You are not trying to achieve anything. You are simply watching one small part of your experience without the intention to change it. 3 breaths. That is enough. What you may find, if you stay long enough, is that the body settles. Not because you made it settle, but because you stopped unsettling it. The mind follows. Clarity comes. And in that clarity, there is a rest that no amount of trying could have produced. There is a moment that arrives after every breath leaves your body. You may have never noticed it. Most of us don't. We are too busy preparing for the next inhale, already reaching forward, already tensing in anticipation of what comes next. But that moment exists. It is there every single time. The body knows something the mind has not yet learned. When the exhale completes, the body does not immediately demand another breath. There is a small opening, a pause, a gap where nothing is being pulled or pushed. In that space, the whole system settles a little. The shoulders drop slightly. The jaw unclenches without effort. The belly softens. This is not something you have to make happen. The body is already doing it. You are simply missing it by moving past it too quickly. We live almost entirely in the space of doing. We inhale with purpose. We exhale with the next thing already in mind. The breath becomes another task to accomplish, another rhythm to control. And so we miss the place where the body is not trying. We miss the doorway that opens between one breath and the next. Think of music for a moment. A piece of music is not only the notes. It is the silence between them. That silence is not empty. It is not a failure of the music. It is what allows the notes to be heard at all. Without those gaps, without those moments of rest, the music would collapse into noise. The silence gives shape to sound. It makes meaning possible. The silence is not separate from the music. It is essential to it. Your breath is like this. The pause after the exhale is not a gap in your breathing. It is the silence that gives the breathing its rhythm, its shape. And more than that, it is where the body naturally releases what it has been holding. We carry tension like we carry our keys. We do not always notice we are holding them. The jaw tightens while we think. The shoulders rise while we wait. The belly braces while we worry. These small contractions accumulate through the day. They become so familiar that we stop calling them tension. We call them normal. But the body has not forgotten how to let go. It remembers, in that pause after the exhale, how to rest. The mind follows the body. This is not a metaphor. This is how it actually works. When the body softens, the mind has less to defend. When the shoulders drop, the thoughts do not need to brace themselves quite so tightly. The relaxation is not something you convince yourself into. It is something you allow by noticing where the body is already releasing. Most of us have learned to relax by trying. We tense and release. We count breaths. We follow instructions. These methods have their place. But there is something simpler available, something that does not require effort, or willpower, or belief. There is simply the noticing of what is already happening. After your next exhale, see if you can rest your attention in that small pause. Not to make anything happen, not to extend it or deepen it, just to be there with it, to notice what is present when the breath is not being pulled in any direction. You might notice a quality of stillness. You might notice the absence of striving. You might notice nothing at all, and that is fine. The noticing itself is enough. The first time you find this pause, you may feel a small sense of surprise. There is a quietness there. The body is not rushing. The mind is not planning. There is just this moment, this small opening, this brief permission to rest. And then the next inhale comes, and the moment passes. This is natural. You do not need to hold on to it. But something shifts when you notice it. The body begins to recognize that this pause exists. It begins to expect it. And when the body expects rest, it prepares for rest. The next exhale becomes a little more complete. The shoulders settle a little more easily. The breath finds a gentler rhythm. The second time you find the pause, it may feel slightly longer. Not because you are controlling it, but because your nervous system is beginning to trust that there is time to rest. The body is learning that it does not have to defend itself in every moment. There is a moment, after each exhale, where defending is not necessary, and the third time, something quieter happens. You find the pause, and you rest there, and for a moment the whole system seems to agree. The body settles. The mind follows. There is no effort. There is no instruction you are following. There is just the simple fact of being present with what is already true. This is the doorway. Not a doorway you have to open. A doorway that is already open, waiting only for your attention to turn toward it. The silence between the notes. The rest that the body has been offering all along. There is a quality of floating that many of us know well. We are here in this room, in this body, and yet somehow we are not quite here. The mind drifts upward into thought, into planning, remembering, worrying, and the body becomes almost invisible beneath it. We sit, we stand, we lie down, and we do not notice that we are being held at all. This floating is not a flaw. It is simply what happens when attention lives only in the realm of thinking. The mind becomes so bright, so compelling, that everything else fades. We lose touch with the ground. We lose touch with the simple fact that right now, something is supporting us completely. The earth, the chair, the bed, it is all there, patient and constant, and we have drifted so far into our own thoughts that we have forgotten it exists. There is a teaching from Zen that speaks to this very simply. Sit like a mountain. Not like a person trying to sit well, not like someone performing the posture of a mountain, but like a mountain itself sits. A mountain does not hold itself up. It does not strain to remain in place. It simply rests where gravity has placed it, and the earth beneath it does all the work. The mountain does nothing but allow itself to be held. When we float in thought, we are doing something quite different. We are, in a subtle way, holding ourselves up. We are managing our position. We are keeping ourselves aloft through a kind of invisible effort. And this effort, though we do not usually notice it, exhausts something in us. It creates a background tension, a sense of being slightly unmoored, never quite settling into rest. Imagine a stone in a riverbed. It does not fall into the sand and then grip the sand to stay there. It simply comes to rest, finding its shape against the shape of the earth beneath it. The sand receives it. The stone releases its weight completely, and in that release, it finds its place. There is no negotiation between the stone and the sand. There is no effort. There is only the meeting of weight and support, and the quiet settling that follows. This is what becomes possible when we bring our attention downward, away from the endless stream of thought, and into the body itself. Not to fix anything or improve anything, simply to notice where we are actually being held. Right now, if you are sitting or lying down, there are places where your body touches what supports it. Your back may rest against a chair or a wall. Your legs may rest on a floor or a bed. Your head rests somewhere. These are not abstract ideas. They are specific physical sensations. They are happening right now, beneath the surface of your thoughts, whether you are paying attention to them or not. When we begin to feel these points of contact, the weight of the back of your head, the weight of your shoulders, the weight of your spine settling downward, something shifts. The mind does not have to be forced away from thought. It simply follows the body's lead. Where there is genuine sensation, where there is real contact with something solid, the mind naturally comes to rest there. It is like water finding its level. The practice is not complicated. It is simply this: feel the places where you are being held, not all at once, not as a task to complete, but one place at a time, with the same gentle attention you might give to listening to a quiet sound. Perhaps you begin with the base of your spine if you are sitting. Notice the weight there, not the idea of weight, but the actual sensation of pressure, of contact, of being supported. Let yourself feel how much of your weight is resting there. You do not have to do anything with this sensation. You do not have to make it stronger or change it. Simply notice it, the way you might notice a sound in the distance without trying to grab hold of it. Then, very slowly, let your attention move to where your legs meet the surface beneath them. The weight of your thighs, the weight of your calves, the soles of your feet. Each of these points is a place where the earth is literally holding you up. Each one is doing its work without any instruction from you. As you feel these points of contact, something begins to happen. The weight that was scattered, held up by invisible tension, begins to gather itself. It begins to settle. It begins to trust the support that is already there. And as the body settles, the mind follows naturally. There is no struggle. There is no effort to quiet the thinking. The thinking simply becomes less interesting, less urgent, because something more real has appeared: the solid, undeniable fact of being held. This is not a state you have to achieve or earn. It is already present. The support is already there. You are already being held. The only thing that is required is to notice it, to feel it, to allow your full weight to rest there without managing or controlling or holding anything back. As you sit with this, as you let your attention move slowly through the places where your body meets its support, you may notice that your shoulders drop slightly. Your jaw may soften. Your breathing may deepen without you asking it to. These are not goals. They are simply what happens when the body is finally allowed to release the invisible work it has been doing all along. The mountain does not think about settling. It simply settles. And you, right now, have the same capacity. There is a moment, just before sleep takes you, when you might notice the body beginning to let go. A shoulder drops. The jaw unclenches. The breath becomes quieter. And if you are watching closely, you might see something that seems strange. The mind follows. Not the other way around. Not because you commanded it, but because the body, in its simple settling, showed the mind that there was nothing left to defend. We spend so much time trying to think our way into peace. We look for the right meditation, the right technique, the right state of mind that will finally feel complete. we imagine peace as something we have not yet found, something that lives in a future moment when we will have done enough, understood enough, or become different enough. This searching itself becomes exhausting. The very effort to relax becomes another form of tension. But consider what happens when you stop building, when you stop adding anything at all to what is already here. There is a pond after rain. The water is clouded with sediment, with all the stirring of the storm. If you wanted clarity, you might think to stir it more, to agitate it, to somehow force the mud to settle faster. But the pond does not work that way. The clarity comes not from action, but from the absence of action. The water, left alone, gradually becomes still. The particles, without any force pushing them, sink naturally. And what emerges is not a clarity you created. It was always there, underneath. You simply stopped disturbing it. This is what the body knows. It knows how to settle. It knows how to find ease. It does not need your mind to instruct it or improve it. But your mind, in its constant reaching and checking and trying to get somewhere, keeps the whole system activated. Keeps the pond stirred, keeps the mud suspended. What if the peace you are looking for is not a state you need to achieve, but simply what remains when you stop trying? This is not passivity. It is not resignation. It is something much simpler and much more direct. It is the recognition that relaxation is not something you do. It is something you allow. And allowing begins with the body, because the body is always more honest than the thinking mind. The body does not argue about whether it should relax. It does not negotiate. When the conditions are right, when there is safety, when there is permission, when there is simply space, the body relaxes. It is its nature. The mind, caught in its patterns of control and vigilance, does not know this yet. The mind still believes it must earn rest, must solve something first, must achieve a certain state before it can let go. But watch what happens when the body begins to settle anyway. Watch how, without any instruction, the mind gradually quiets. How the racing thoughts slow. How the urgency that was there moments before begins to dissolve. The body did not argue with the mind. It simply showed it, through its own settling, that there was nothing to fear in letting go. This is the teaching that lives in the body. Peace is not made. It is uncovered when we stop building. And this uncovering happens not through effort, but through a very particular kind of attention. Not the attention that grasps and analyzes and tries to fix things, but the attention that simply notices, that receives, that allows what is already happening to continue happening without interference. Right now, in this moment, there is a body. There is breath moving in and out. There is the simple fact of being alive, of being here. There is no requirement that this moment be different from what it is. There is no test you need to pass, no state you need to reach. The restlessness that might be present, the slight ache, the wandering thought, the urge to shift or adjust. This too is allowed. This too can be here without becoming a problem that needs solving. If you were to simply let everything be exactly as it is, for the length of 5 breaths, what would you notice? Not trying to change anything, not trying to deepen the relaxation or improve the meditation, just 5 breaths, with whatever is present allowed to be present. The first breath comes in and goes out. The body is here. Perhaps there is tension somewhere. Perhaps there is ease. It does not matter. It is simply what is. The second breath. The third. Notice how, when there is no project, when there is no goal being chased, the quality of presence itself becomes different. Lighter. Less defended. By the 4th breath, something may have already shifted, not because you made it shift, but because you stopped preventing it from shifting. because you stopped stirring the pond. The fifth breath settles, and in that settling, if you are very quiet, you might feel it, the mind following the body into a place that was never far away. A place that does not need to be built or earned or understood. A place that is simply here, waiting for the moment when you stop reaching for something else and discover that you are already home. The body has been here all along, breathing without instruction, holding you upright without applause. It never asked to be improved or optimized. It simply continues, cell by cell, breath by breath, doing what bodies do. And now, having spent this time noticing it, you might feel something softer in your chest, a little more room in your shoulders. Perhaps the jaw is loose. Perhaps the eyes are resting back in their sockets, no longer reaching forward into thought. This is not an achievement. It is what happens when awareness touches the body without agenda. The body recognizes the attention. It settles, and the mind, which has been spinning in its own weather, begins to quiet. You did not force this. You allowed it. There is a difference. When you force relaxation, the body tenses against the demand. But when you simply notice where tension lies, when you feel the breath moving through the center of it, something shifts on its own. The grip loosens, not because you told it to, because it was seen. This is the practice, not once, not as a technique you master and set aside, but as a returning. Again and again, you come back to the body. You notice the breath. You feel the weight. You let the sensations speak without needing to answer them. Some days the body will feel light. Other days it will feel like stone. Both are fine. The practice is not about feeling good. It is about feeling clearly. And in that clarity, the mind stops pretending it can solve everything by thinking harder. It stops running ahead into tomorrow or circling back through yesterday. It rests here, in this breath, in this moment, where the body has always been waiting. There is kindness in this, a quiet kindness that does not announce itself. You are not punishing yourself for being tense. You are not disappointed that the mind wanders. You are simply meeting what is here with a soft attention, the way you might watch rain on a window. And now, as this time together comes to a close, let that kindness widen. Feel the breath moving in your chest, and as you breathe, let the awareness include not just your own body, but the sense of space around you. The room you are in, the ground beneath you, the air touching your skin. You are not separate from this moment. You are part of it, breathing with it, resting in it. And in this same moment, countless other beings are breathing too. Some are calm, some are suffering, some are waking, some are falling asleep. All of them like you, carried by breath. All of them like you, trying to find a little peace in a body that will not last forever. So let the kindness you have offered yourself extend outward now, not as a grand gesture, just as a quiet wish. May all beings feel safe in their bodies. May they know moments of ease. May they be free from the grip of fear and the weight of unnecessary suffering. May they rest when they need to rest. May they breathe without resistance. And may you, too, continue to return to this, to the body, to the breath, to the simple, steady awareness that asks nothing of you but presence. This is not the end of the practice. It is a pause, a place to rest before you rise again and move back into your life. And when you do, the body will still be here, the breath will still be here, and the possibility of noticing, of softening, of letting the mind follow the body into stillness, that will be here too. If you would like to continue, there are other reflections waiting. No urgency, only an invitation. But if you are ready to sleep, then sleep. If you are ready to sit in silence, then sit. The practice does not need you to do more. It only asks that you return when you are ready. Until then, rest easy, breathe softly, and know that in this moment, you are enough. The body knows this already. Perhaps the mind is beginning to listen. May you be well, may you be at peace. May you move through your days with a little more space, a little more breath, and a little more kindness toward the body that carries you.